welcome to the Self Project podcast. I'm your host, Christy Martin. I'm a transformation and human design guide who is passionate about guiding women to be the most authentic versions of themselves. This podcast is all about self-discovery, self-empowerment, wellness, healing, parenting, mental health, spirituality, you name it, we're going to talk about it. This podcast and this space is all about helping you along on your own self-project journey. So welcome. Let's sit back and we'll dive right in today. Welcome back to the show, and I am so excited to have on with us today Meghan Jones. And Meghan is a certified holistic health coach and certified personal trainer. And prior to that, she played professionally in full-time orchestra, which sounds amazing. Hopefully we'll get to dive into hearing more about that. But she helps her clients look at the relationship between their lifestyle choices and food choices. And she works with them to discover and transform their internal, mental, and emotional limiting beliefs, discomforts, and any areas that they seek to feel more grace, ease, and peace. And I absolutely love that because, well, for so many reasons, we'll dive into it soon. But I just want to thank you, Meghan, for coming on today, for giving your time to be here to share with us. And if you didn't mind, I'm going to turn it over to you and see if you will share more about yourself with us and just share more of your story that kind of led you to where you are today and to want to work with people to help them do this.
I'm so grateful to be here, Christy. It's fun. And I love the title of your podcast because the Self Project is basically what all of our lives are, right? Like that's kind of the title of all of our personal books is the Self Project. I just thought that was the best title anyone's picked for a podcast. When you say a little bit about my story and how I got here, just like anyone's story, it's just so windy, right? So windy but I am where I am, and it's resonating more with my authenticity than I've done anything in my life. Like I was born into a super classical music family. So you asked about the orchestra stuff. I was basically groomed, if that makes sense, from, toddler down literally. And so then I went to undergrad and grad school and did all the things and started to win jobs and played the music festivals. And the orchestral world is amazing. It's awesome. It's also huge, but it's teeny. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a small community. We know everybody on the planet, it's and that's also beautiful and that's also challenging, right? And so that's that. And I love it. And I grew up in it. I don't know anything different. I kind of played the violin at the same time as I brushed my teeth. There was no, you know what I mean? There was no separation. Like my parents are musicians, my brother's a musician. So people are like, oh, you found a calling. And it's not even that I found a calling. It's just there was nothing separate, if that makes sense. So as I also, just so you know, there's house renovation going on next door. So it's some helpful percussive stuff behind me, but sorry. But as I just sort of came into myself and who I am and what I love, I just love exercise and I love food and I love how food can fuel you. And I went through all of those like weird fad diets that everybody went through. And I used exercise to tortures myself, and now I use it to benefit myself and make me feel good and better, and went through all the processes. And I got certified as a personal trainer probably, I don't know, like 15 years ago because I wanted to. And I loved it. And I started to train a handful of people because you can only do so much with a, full-time orchestra job. And I was always thinking, gosh, I'd love to live a parallel life if I could just live two lives at once. And then I kept saying to myself, I really want to certify in nutrition, right? Over and over again. And eventually I was finally researching nutrition schools, and I happened across IIN, which I'm sure you've heard of, the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And the reason I chose it was because the schedule worked very well with the orchestra schedule. I could go to school and do that and whatever. And in IIN, I actually learned what a health coach was. And I remember immediately like hearing the definition and I was like, oh my God, that's me. Like I've always been a health coach. People have always come to me for like exercise things and eating things or helping them to lose weight, even though I was just a violinist with them in the orchestra. And so lockdown happened for everybody, and lockdown definitely happened on the performing arts. Hard. And so the orchestra has its truncated virus season, whatever, but I have been able to really focus on building my health coaching business. And it's awesome. And I'm still working and I'm enjoying it. So from there to here is that. And there's a little piece in the middle where when stuff was kind of exploding for me, and I thought it was around, music and life and everything. It was around when I turned 30. It was the week I turned 30. Um, Stuff changed and I got on a different path. And needless to say, fast forwarding a lot, I have been mentoring every other week with a shaman for a really long time. Um, I'll just say I'm 48. I started to like read and study. I went to therapy, worked with other coaches, performance coaches, because I thought it was violin related. And about 11 years ago, I started to mentor with this woman named Kristen. And that has shifted a lot of it has shifted everything. And it also shapes a lot of how I can read and hear and guide my clients. So it weighs in a lot in my health coaching. That was a lot of words, but that's a bit about me.
I love that. It's just so incredible to hear other people's journeys. What I love is I've heard so many stories of, people were, doing one thing and then COVID hit. And then it was like a time for them to reevaluate, what they were going to do or what changes they were going to make or how they were going to pivot. So I just think that it's so cool to hear these stories of people who were like, okay, here's, you had two ways of looking at it, you took it as an here's this opportunity for me to take my business and pivot and run and see and like just make things
Great.
happen. Yes. So I just think that's so exciting and I love to hear those stories. So um I really wanted to point out, you mentioned in there using exercise as a way to kind of torture yourself. And I felt like I really resonated with that because when I was a younger girl, when I was in high school, that was something I did as well. I had an experience with a high school boyfriend where he had made a comment about my weight. And so after that, I had taken on some unhealthy eating, not eating, and then exercise behaviors all in an effort to punish myself. And I think that we see that all too often. And so I do want to touch on that more, but I noticed also that, my journey, especially lately, when I kind of dove back into exercise a few years ago, was more coming from a place of wanting to take care of and show kind of respect and love to the body. So it was coming from a totally kind of different perspective and a different mindset because I would be one that told you before that, like, I hate exercise. I hate to work out. I, hate to do all of that. And now it's one of the things that's an essential part of my self-care. So I just, I would kind of love to touch on that. Do you see a lot of that with your clients that you work with, that they have kind of that exercise, that mentality around like exercise and kind of their bodies?
So many, everybody, obviously, and this is why I love health coaching. Everybody is bio individual, right? Like you are very different than me, than your husband, than your best friends, right? And what you need is different than what I need, what you needed 6 months ago, right? So I feel that like individually, there's a lot of all or nothing with exercise with people in their own variations. There's a lot of, I even posted a couple days ago on my Instagram account, uh, exercise as a celebration of what your body can do, not as punishment for something you ate. Because one of my friends had shared that quote a few days ago, and I was like, me? Like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, it was absolutely punishment for what I ate, you know? And then there are other people who say, if I'm in a groove, if I'm doing it for 3 weeks, I'm fine, but it's getting there. And after the work day or when I'm with my family. So I think everybody's story is 100% slightly different, but there's often the all or nothing, you know?
I like that you bring that up because I feel like we can take that approach to a lot of things in life. I could,
Eating,
yep, yep.
self-care.
I was going to touch on that anytime I've wanted to make some dietary changes or anytime that I've kind of wanted to, come back to a more centered approach or, things like that. Anytime you want to get kind of back on track, I always had used to make all these drastic changes. I'm going to start eating all the vegetables and just start drinking water and this and that. And it was just like, by the end of a week, I'm just like, oh, I just want one carb, like I just want a candy bar.
And you're like face down in the Nutella.
Yeah. So now it's just, obviously learning more, about nutrition and breaking like the diet cycle and all of that, which hopefully we'll get to touch more on how you work with that. But I also, oh my gosh, I totally blanked out. Where was I going with that?
All or nothing.
Oh, all or nothing. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, I found if I can take an approach where I integrate something like, you know what, I'm going to focus on just getting all my water in. I'm going to focus on just making sure that I hit that, that water goal that I set for myself today. And, just get that going and make that a part of who I am. And then I could tackle something else. And I found that that's just it's just a much more effective way for me to do it because it integrates
It
it.
is much more effective. And you can even, if people need, because like that completely makes a lot of sense. Like, let's just, I've got all these tasks I want to do. And when I do them all at once, I explode on Saturday and then that sucks, right? So, like, if you say, I'm going to, work on all my water or tackle all my water, you can even go like even more gentle, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't ask themselves, like you would ask your boys, you would ask your friends, your husband, you'd say, okay, like if you're seeing they're not like doing great or they're like ready to like end this healthy streak, you can say, okay, what do you need? I'm sure you as a mom say that all day long, right? What do you need? What do you need? And if we say to ourselves, like if we're feeling frazzled or we're feeling all or nothing or curse this exercise water, I'm just going to drive through the fast food, right? Then you can just check, what do I need? You might literally just need one glass of water. You might literally need just to step outside for a second for like 5 minutes, take one deep breath, ask yourself again what you need, and you just needed to go outside and you're okay. But it's just those things. And then you can say, okay, so then I'm going to add one vegetable a day. Add one. Because I think I'm eating vegetables, but I'm going to add one a day. It doesn't even have to be that you want to focus on all the vegetables, even though you eventually do. But yeah, I think that like scale it back like you would for your super squishy, beloved toddler self, right? And like what you would do for them is you would cut those apple pieces quite small, you know? And I think sometimes we forget because we want to like do like backflips off the diving board, kind of.
I agree. I agree. And I think too that we could get really, the word gung ho kind of comes up for me. It's like we could get really just, we talked a little bit about human design before we started that you're familiar with it, but, depending on whatever is going on, we can get really maybe influenced and excited by, starting something new and we have all that energy for it. And then, after, a couple of weeks, it's kind of like that energy and that influence wears off. And it's like, where are you at that point? Have you tried to, again, implement all of these different things? And now you're just left like, oh my God, I couldn't get in all my water. Like I forgot to meal prep. And then it's just all these things. Like I found that that's what I'd get to, like, oh my God, I didn't have time to meal prep and do this and do that. So it was just like when I could make one thing and make it figure out kind of like how to fit that in my daily life, one thing at a time.
It's
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing that I actually really love to help with my clients is like making their lifestyle changes sustainable. Because it's not like oh, I'll go back on that diet once a year, or I'll start exercising again once a year and then fall off my horse or whatever. Making those lifestyle changes sustainable, and like you said, like you didn't get your meal prep in and you didn't get your water in and whatever. But if you like took a walk 10 minutes away from your door and 10 minutes back to your door, that's 100% more than you would have otherwise, with 100% more than zero, and it's super important that we all, every single one of us, no matter where we are on our like trying to on our self project journey, it doesn't matter where we are, right? Like one little thing is 100% more, and we just have to keep. We all have to keep reminding ourselves that mattered.
I love that. This reminds me of the compound, effect. Because, like we were saying, it's not an all or nothing approach. It's one little thing every day. Like, I moved my office upstairs from my downstairs bedrooms, and now I have to climb the stairs a million times a day. And at first, I was like, I was kind of annoyed. I'm like, I don't want to move upstairs. I'm gonna have to go up and down those stairs all day long, to go back and forth and to the kitchen and do like help the kids and back and forth. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably so good for you. Like decreased activity levels within COVID because we've been home. So I've noticed that, my activity levels haven't been as up. Um, and, I love that you also mentioned, I feel like I'm going off topic now, that you mentioned, what do you need? Because I find myself asking myself that a lot lately. I also found myself in pantry a lot, with a bag of chips. And before I knew it, I'm like, why am I in here eating these? Like, it's one of those things. And so it was one of those moments where I started to check in with myself and like, you're going for the pantry. Like, what do you need? Because you don't need chips right now. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you need to turn around and go to the closet and just like close the door for a minute and take a break? Do you need to step outside? That's always a really great one for me. It's like, I just need to step outside and take a short little walk or take a breath. Like, what do you need? Do you need to go? Sometimes I'll put on a song and tell the kids like quick dance party, do you need to laugh? Like, so I think that that's just such a powerful question that you could use to stop yourself. What do you need? Like,
Huge question. And I love that you were saying you find yourself in the pantry with chips and you're like, I don't what I'm doing. Like that's literally an example that I use because a few of my clients have said that, like, her husband will leave the Doritos or whatever, chips on the counter, and she walks by and then she realizes she's like had three handfuls in her face, and she's like, I don't even like Doritos. And I said to her, I'm like, okay, so that's the moment where there's probably three phases. Like the first moment would be you get mindful, super mindful. I love, love, love to practice and teach practical mindfulness, basically like bringing intuition and mindfulness to like everyday things, life, eating, health, work, family, right? Just bringing awareness. And you can even narrate. So when you walk in there, you say, oh, look, there are the chips. Just literally define that there are chips on the table, because sometimes you walk by, she would walk by and just grab them and then didn't even notice they were there, let alone in her hand, let alone in her mouth. And just say, oh, look, there's the chips. And then you have three choices, right? You can throw them away because there's a good chance they weren't made for human consumption. What? You can put them away because they don't belong on the table. And then you can ask yourself, okay, so am I hungry? Because if you're hungry, you might actually need something substantial. You might need like your leftover lunch. You might need an apple because you want fruit sugar. Maybe you're not hungry and you just need to get your butt out of the kitchen. Right. So I just like a few stages and then go do what you said, like go stand outside or stand in the closet for a minute so you can be alone. Or, it's interesting, but I find that sort of narration, like, oh look, there are the chips, can be that spark of mindfulness. Then you can say, what do I actually need?
mm,
being mindful in the moment that they're sitting on the table.
Mm, I really love that. And I really love that you brought that up because I think that that's just such a powerful question you can ask yourself, like just that quick, like tuning in, like just wait a minute, what do I really need right now? Because it's probably not the chips. Like 99.9% sure it is not the chips. I'll give you a 0.1, but but um so, I feel like you've given us so many great tips already. What I would love is to kind of circle back around. You talked about giving us kind of making this sustainable, that you really like kind of walking your clients through actually making these changes sustainable. So I feel like, we've already talked about a few of those, but what are some of the other things that you kind of guide your clients through?
Well, it's interesting because again, every body is different, right? And so I like to work with clients mainly one on one, but right now I have a very fun little group that I'm running, and I see them benefiting from that. So there's a lot of the accountability outside of just with me that goes along in the group that's fun. And it's sort of really what works for them. Like some people really need me to help them and they want to be organized with meal prep and that's the way they're going to do it. But a lot of people, like you said, will be like, I didn't get in the water, I didn't get in the meal prep, I didn't get in the steps, right? And a sustainable way for me is I will fold meal prep into everything, anything, so I'm making my tea and the lentils might in the morning. Could be 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, doesn't matter. And I'll boil some lentils for 20 minutes. The alarm goes off. I shut that off. I continue my breakfast. I don't have to spend time meal prepping. So it really works. I like to make it sustainable for each individual with their life. If they're juggling 5 children or if they're juggling some huge corporate job, right? I mean, meal prepping when you're in a huge corporate job is also a challenge. So you might make yourself little Christie bags where you know that like this will be a very energy sustaining snack after you've had your super easy grab out the door breakfast where you won't crash and dip and get angry and your product it's really finding how you individually like it, how it feels easier, how it brings relief, that becomes sustainable. Because if it's a should, that thing like don't should all over yourself. If it becomes a should, you've already failed, right? It's like an obligation you failed on. So it needs to be a relief and easier and something that if you fall off that horse, it's okay. Just shift when you get home.
I love that. I love that you say you you shouldn't should all over yourself. Because I'll find myself saying that, like, I should go do that. And then I'll think right after that, then get up and go do it. Like, if you think you should, yeah, either get up and go do it or, stop complaining about it. So I like to humor myself like that when I'm like, oh, I should go like clean the house right now. I'm like, either get up and go do it, and you're not. So stop worrying about it.
Or you could say, I want to, or I
Yeah.
will, or I get to. I mean, the way we phrase things, also the way we phrase food, like our words around language around food, because a lot of people will come to me and talk about cheat days and cheat weeks and this and that. And I feel the same way about cheat days as I do about the word should. I think that it's just that's why. If you're going to eat 80% real, whole, natural foods because your body is a race car and that's what she deserves. She deserves the food. Like your car wasn't built for diesel. Why are you going to give it diesel, right? So give your body what she deserves. And then 20% of the time, if you decide that you want an indulgence, mindfully choose exactly what you want and really love it. Eat it and have a great time because cheat days feel like you're just gonna like eat an entire pizza pie and then again face down in the Nutella and then you feel like monkey butt, Like there's no, eating like a garbage can doesn't serve us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It doesn't do, and it doesn't actually make you feel great in the moment either. So I feel like our language around lifestyle choices, eating the water, doing the motion, doing the meal prep, cleaning the house, and our language around food and exercise, if we just basically tell ourselves generally it's okay and you pull back down into your feet and into your body and into your hips, and you can ask again, what do I need? You could say, I actually might need an indulgence. And an indulgence could be like going to buy a new nail polish color. I don't know. It can be food, but it doesn't have to be. Your indulgence could be buying that 2.99 bottle of Italian sparkling water at Whole Foods and walking outside. Indulgences can be decadent, and they also can be. I mean, I know a lot of people that splurge on shoes. So I feel like our bodies don't have to always be the brunt of it. you know, and they are often.
I agree with you. I love this because what popped into my head is talking. I'm going to nerd out on a little bit of human design, something that I've been experimenting with recently. I saw somebody else that I follow mention this. So, both of us, because we're manifesting generators. So, if anybody listening, if you are a manifesting generator or a generator, we all have the sacral center defined. And so the sacral center is where we access just kind of that like life force energy, just that pure kind of sustainable power that, has us kind of going. And so all the other non-sacral beings kind of sample from us and are able to, kind of if the word siphon comes up, like siphon that energy off of us. But the whole point of coming back to that is so somebody that I'm following on Instagram, she had mentioned something about like digestion and eating. And she had said that like she went to eat something for breakfast that morning and she had like really been looking forward to it, like the previous days. And that morning she was just kind of like, I'm not really feeling it, but I've been looking forward to this like meal. So I'm going to go ahead and eat it. And she goes, and I felt like crap since then. So she goes, it was an interesting experiment with her sacral response of like, yeah, she's been excited about it. But then that morning, right before she got ready to eat it, her body was like, meh. And she ignored that response. So I thought, what a cool thing. And so I started kind of playing around with that too, that, when I would walk into the pantry and I'm looking at my food choices as I'm like, what do I really want? And it's like kind of looking between them and seeing which one elicits more of that response of like, yes, that's what my body wants. And, most of the time it's going for that naturally healthy and nutritious stuff. Every once in a while it's going for the chocolate. And I think that that's okay too, though, if that's especially during like it's that time of the month right now. And so my body's like chocolate. But I think that that's okay because it's like you said, I don't like cheat days used to be a word in my vocabulary too, or treat day. And like you said, I think that it's important that we like treat ourselves, but I think that it just needs to be a regular part of like our routine, not necessarily a treat.
Yeah. And for me, it's a little bit daily because I love
Yeah.
sweet things.
Yeah.
So sometimes I will have a sweet. Now it could be a date. It also could be a piece of chocolate. Evolved vegan chocolate is delicious. I wish it's not even a sponsorship. That's just saying I love it. But if you love vegan, if you're vegan and you love chocolate, evolved chocolate is totally worth it. Um, but when you were saying uh, that you go to the pantry and you check, that's exactly what I try to bring my clients to do, like reconnect with your intuition, because we all have intuition, particularly females. Men are intuitive too. They're just not as connected as we are often. Super intuitive males are very powerful. Mad respect. I feel though, because like if you say with your family or with your friends, like everybody's planning on having Mexican, or you're gonna have Mexican, you're gonna have Mexican, and then you can say, you know what, I just really don't feel like having Mexican, and you don't know why, you just don't want that, and it could just be that feeling in your body, or the picture in your mind, or the smell in your nose, or whatever it is, and you can be like, I don't know what I want, but it's just not Mexican. Or you could be like, I would much rather have this or that. It can be literally the same way in front of your pantry and your fridge every single day, and with your supplements, ps, but that's another multi-layer, because your body will tell you, because there's supplements, right? There's to supplement your food. But like you can check in with yourself in front of the fridge in the pantry and you can say, okay, and you can check with your eyes and you can check with your, but let's take it easier and go to a drawer, right? And you think you're going to wear that green shirt. You're going to wear that green shirt. You've been thinking all morning you're going to wear that green shirt. And you go to the drawer to the green shirt, and you look and you see the purple. You go to grab the green, and the purple sticks out. Just grab the purple. Just wear the purple because it's sticking out. Even though you planned on wearing the green, all you see is the purple, right? Is there a reason you need to wear the purple? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's an interview and that person's favorite color is purple, or maybe that you who doesn't even matter why. But like just go with that and your food hits will come, right? And the other things, because that's your intuition you're tapping into. It is your sacral, it is your everything, but that's also your natural connectivity to you, your higher self, the unseen, right? I feel like it totally applies to food. 100% applies to food.
I absolutely love that. And I feel like you can apply it to exercise as well too, right? Because there's some mornings where I'm just like, I want to lift a weight. And then there's some mornings I'm like cardio. And some mornings I'm like, I don't want to do anything but maybe stretch and do a little yoga or.
And that's your body speaking, and you listen to her.
Yes.
And then the next time you decide to go hit it hard, you'll be like, wow, I'm on top of the world. Right?
Yes. Yes. So it's really become powerful to, before I was operating from such a mind place of like, okay, we have these things to get done. We got these places to go. Like, come on, buddy, let's go. And now, yeah, I feel too where COVID has been really impactful for me is putting kind of the body more in the back in the driver's seat of like, okay, body. Now it's like leading with the body, like, okay, body, like, I woke up this morning and I'm like, I don't feel like doing like a lot of work today. I'm like, I have my podcast interviews. I mean, you could apply this to everything. So like I have my podcast interviews. I'm like, maybe I'll do a little content, but I don't really feel like working. So I'm not going to. I feel like doing a little extra self-care today. So it's just an incredible way of just the shift for me it shifts everything, it feels like, because
it shifts everything, and that becomes sustainable.
Yeah.
That you make sustainable lifestyle changes is by listening to exactly what you, or learning to listen to what you need.
Yes. And it's a process, it's a journey, and you're, going to sometimes misinterpret the signals, it's all part of it, all part of the learning curve. So this has been incredible. I would really love to know. So we know that you work one-on-one and that you have a program, but if somebody is listening and they want to come and work with you, how would they be able to get started with you? Like what things do you offer?
Well, I am on the social media, so people could find me on there. You can tell me when to share that. I love to work one-on-one. I'm having little groups. I'm creating a little course, so that will come out. If people don't feel ready for a full one-on-one health coaching program, which is generally 12 calls, over 12 weeks, just to create the sustainable lifestyle change, I do offer like single calls, could talk about just food, could just be an intuitive call where we just try to like tap into yourself. So there's ways to get to like feel what I do, or something that you could just take a little nugget and just work with that for as long as you would want. But mainly people find me through Instagram, Facebook, and I can give you my email as well. If people just literally want to write me an email, that's just fine.
I love that. Well, yeah, let us know where we can find you on social media if they want to come find you.
Instagram, my handle is at wellness_on_purpose. And then my Facebook group, you can also find me on Facebook, is Wellness on Purpose also. But my Facebook group is called Eating Healthy and Finding Balance. And you can message me anywhere. I always get back to people. If you hear me on Christy's podcast and you want to send me a direct message, let me know you heard me here with her. I'll totally be happy to send you a link to a little free guide I made of just 10 little things that I do every day, but that you could maybe take one to make you feel physically balanced, physically better, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically better every day. Just 10 little things, whether you do them all or try one. But I'd be super happy to send anybody that guide for free if they wanted to just say they heard us.
I love that. Thank you for that generous offer. And I always love things like that too. I love that you say, like, you could try. These are the things that I do. You could try it if you want, that you don't have to, because I feel like that's how I've, um, when I first started kind of diving into my own kind of self-care and kind of my taking my self project journey, it was learning what other people did. So like learning like what your tips were and taking the pieces of like what I liked, what worked for me, what I could incorporate, um, and and then integrating that into my own routine. So I feel like never has never have I necessarily taken one whole person's like routine, but I feel like everybody that I learned from or that I talk to or that I mentor with, I feel like I take away such an important piece that I'm able to integrate into something for myself. So it's like this almost feel like this quilt of,
Patchwork is what
yeah,
I'm seeing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful way. Just this patchwork of like this is what's worked for me. Like try it out. So
Yeah, I'm
I love that.
exactly the same
Love
way.
that.
And then in your mind, you're sort of like, oh, I remember when he said this or when she said this. Like you kind of know where you heard that, but it all becomes you like for a while I was like, oh, but he created this or she created this. That's fine. But then it becomes like this one unique quilt or patchwork or whatever.
Yes. Oh, I love that you bring that up because that kept me a long time too from creating or sharing anything. I'm like, everybody else already talks about it. I'm just saying the same thing. I don't want to say what somebody else is already saying or copy them or this or that. But I've come to learn that like we're all saying the same thing, in a way, but we all have a unique way of saying it. We're all connecting with somebody different. We're all incorporating like we're all saying the same thing, but in a different way, but we're not. We are, but we're
100%.
not.
And that's what I found even when I was starting to read all the books and try pull myself out of that hole when I was 30. I was reading like all these sacred things and all of these self-help, like new agey things. And I was like, they're all saying the same thing. Like whether it's like Baha'u'llah, Moses, Jesus, Buddha, and then you listen to like Louise Hay or Wayne Dyer, they're all saying the same thing.
Yep.
It's like, cool.
Yep. I know it's really fascinating. I feel like that on my journey too. I'm just like, wow. What more is there to learn? There's so much. It's such a fascinating journey, but I just want to thank you as we kind of close up. Do you kind of have a final message that you want to leave our listeners with, some kind of final words for them?
The way I try to live, which has been helping me, is I really, really believe deeply that every moment of every day we can live more and more on purpose. Like, what's the purpose of this moment, right? Like, I'm speaking with Christy. What's the purpose of this moment? I'm feeling my feet on the floor. Like, I don't think there's much more literally to life than like trying to be in every moment more on purpose. So that's what I guess I would love to share.
Oh, I love that so much. And I resonate with that because I feel like every day I'm realizing that more and more. How can I just live in today and be connected and be present today? That's like my goal that I wake up with every day. How can I be present? How can I be connected? And how can I just live in today? Megan, I just have to thank you giving your time today. I feel like this conversation has just been incredible. And I feel like we could probably go on and talk about so many.
Yeah, I think we could go on, and I want to learn all of the human design from you. So thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to your listeners, because the self project I think that's what the world's about. So I really appreciate your podcast.
Awesome. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining me today for the Self Project podcast. Come and connect with me over on Instagram @_Christy Martin and let me know what your takeaways were and what you want to hear more of. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these awesome episodes. Leave a review if you love the show, and I will see you next time.